Hello everyone. Today I wanted to speak to you about intuition. Our intuition is something that is really misunderstood. Intuition has nothing to do with psychic abilities, reading the future, knowing what's going to happen, reading other people's minds. That has nothing to do with it at all. Intuition is our inner knowing. It's our compass, our guide. It really is our spirit. It's our authentic self. It's who we are, who we were meant to be. Often, and I'll use this pun, often we mask ourselves to the world. What we do is we show the world what we think the world wants to see in us. And more often than not, it's not our authentic self. And because of that, our intuition doesn't get refined, doesn't get developed, and instead we live in fear and uncertainty. Children have no problem with intuition. All children are intuitive. It's a natural way of being. It's only when they become adults that they lose that intuitive sense. So how do we get it back? How do we refine it? It's not really difficult. It requires a little bit of work. The first thing is our self-confidence. Individually, how confident are you in who you are? How confident are you in how you present yourself to the world? Do you go into the world self-assured, courageous, confident, or do you go into the world doubtful, anxious, and unsure, and fearful? Too often, we lack self-confidence, or we put on a facade of self-confidence, again, which really isn't us. So how do we get self-confidence? Self-confidence comes by knowing ourselves. And how do we know ourselves? That is meditation. I've talked about meditation extensively. Almost every video I do probably mentions meditation, because meditation is really the gold standard. It's the gold standard for health and well-being. It's the gold standard for how we live and who we are. So when you could sit quietly in meditation, and meditation doesn't require anything fancy. It just requires a quiet place without any distractions whatsoever. So yes, we have to get rid of those cell phones, as much as we like to hang on to them and know everything that's going on all the time. We could at least take 5, 10, 15, 20 minutes out of our day to sit quietly. And when we do that, it's just a matter of closing our eyes, letting thoughts come, because we are thinking individuals. We're human beings, and human beings think. And anyone who tells you to clear your mind isn't being accurate about it, because you can't clear your mind. Your mind has thoughts, but what you could do is not dwell on them. And that's where our problem comes in, is dwelling on our thoughts. You can have a thought, and if you let it pass you by, it does nothing. If you have a thought and you dwell on it, you become distracted. You can't live in the present. And oftentimes, if it's a disturbing, an anxious, or a fearful thought, it affects your health and well-being. So I recommend every day, at least 10 minutes of meditation, sitting quietly with yourself, no distractions, with your eyes closed. When thoughts come, allow them to be there. Thank them for coming, and let them pass like the clouds pass in the sky. Don't dwell on them. Allow yourself to feel. What are you feeling? Are you feeling good? Are you feeling some anxiety? Are you feeling stressed? Are you feeling angry? What are those emotions? And oftentimes we have a tendency to push down our emotions because we want everything to be good, and we always want to feel good, and that's not always possible. Sometimes we have to feel things And we have to feel the depth of those emotions in order to come out the other side. One of my mentors, who's Rick Jarrow, he's a longtime mentor of mine, I guess now about close to 20 years. And I remember him telling us in a group that sometimes you have to sit in the oven until you're fully baked. And that takes patience. And nothing is more true. So we need to feel our feelings. We need to process emotions. If we're feeling angry, why? If we're feeling doubtful, why? If we're feeling anxious, why? And the rule of thumb always is, if you're anxious and fearful, are you in imminent danger? Because if you are, it's a good thing to be anxious and fearful, because you need the stress, the fight or flight mechanism to get out of that situation. But about 99.9999% of the time, we're not in any danger. We're not in imminent danger. We just perceive it as such. And we allow outside forces, the media, other people, anything to come between us and our ability to discern our own truth and not be fearful and not be anxious. So process your emotions. I've talked about that, living from your heart. Allowing emotions to come into your heart, allowing them to sit there. Take the time to discern them, feel them, sit with them. They can't do you any harm as long as you're sitting with them, aware of them, and you're processing them. The only time emotions do us harm is when we either push them back or we allow them to get us in a state of such anxiety, depression, or fear that we can't get out of it. So those are the two things that help and refine and define self-confidence, to give us that feeling, that courage, that self-assurance that we need. And the second thing with perception, with intuition, is how do you perceive the world? How do you perceive yourself, which has to do with self-confidence? And how do you perceive the world and things around you? If you perceive yourself as lacking, not good enough, never able to do things, I don't have the education, I don't have the skill, I don't have the time, I don't have the money, I don't have the fortitude, I don't have the courage. Those are all negative self-images, and they're not true, because there's always a way to find something, and it doesn't always involve money, it doesn't always involve time. Sometimes it's just the willingness to pursue what we want. And how do you view the world around you? It's a little tough now because everything's in chaos and the energy is such that it's trying to suck us in to a lot of negative feelings, to a lot of self-doubt, to a lot of anxiety and a lot of fear. And I often tell people what to do is just walk that middle path. Okay, on the right of you, you may see fear, anger, disbelief. On the left of you, you may see total chaos, things falling apart. Walk that middle line. Just walk down the middle of the road where there's neither fear, doubt, any type of anxiety, any type of fear. Because if you walk down the middle of the road, you don't allow any of those things to affect you. And right now, that's our biggest enemy. It's not about, and I won't say it, I don't want to be censored, I'll just say it's not about that thing that's been out there for 18 months. It's about much more. Okay, that thing is only a symptom. And that thing is allowing us to be able to discern, to be able to become our individual selves. Many call it an awakening. Many call it a chance to be different. I call it a chance to be our authentic selves, to step out of the fear, to step out of the unknowing. Okay? to be able to discern, to feel comfortable, to take charge of ourselves. And when we take charge of ourselves, even our intuition, it affects the total of us, which includes our health and well-being. So walk that middle line. Don't worry about what's going on here, what's going on there. Don't worry about who's doing what the government's doing, what the new variant of it is. That all really doesn't mean a whole lot, okay? Those are only, again, symptoms and distractions that prevent us from being the best people that we can be. It also tries to separate us, the polarity of this and that, I'm this, he's that, I'm right, you're wrong, not being able to accept others' opinions, all the way to being afraid of people. And if you really sit back and think about it, and I know this is hard, and I may get some flack from talking about this, and honestly I don't really care because I think it needs to be said, but are you honestly afraid of human beings? Is this what we've come to be afraid of our fellow human being, that they're going to harm us? Yes, there are people with guns, with knives, terrorists. There are people that, yes, can harm us. But on the whole, human beings aren't here to harm us. Human beings, they're just like us. Okay, namaste is a Sanskrit word, which means I honor the light in you, which is the same light in me. It could also mean hello and goodbye. But the gist of it is, I honor the light in you, which is the same light in me. We're all the same on the inside. It's only the outside that's different. Inside, we all want to be recognized. We all want to be our authentic selves. And we all want to be in connection with other people. Sure, people get ill mentally, things go on, perceptions get skewed, and things happen. But on the whole, we're here for each other. We're not meant to be fearful of each other. Even in the animal kingdom, they're cautious. You may not have certain fish that want to go near an alligator because they know that they could get eaten, and that's just common sense. But it's not to say that there's total fear in the animal kingdom, because there isn't. Even in the wild, there's a lot of cooperation, a lot of working together. And we as human beings need to learn from the animal kingdom that, yes, there are certain times we do need to fear, but on the whole, we need to be in connection. We don't need to fear that you're going to do something to me, that I'm going to do something to you. When you take charge of who you are, what you are, your confidence, and your perception of the world, instead of lacking and fearful, being abundant, being calm, being peaceful, helping out each other, then we can dismiss the fear of, if you don't do this, you're going to give this to me, or I'm going to give this to you, or I can't go here because this certain person may be there and they do this, and this could cause me harm, and I don't like that they do this and they haven't gotten X. They're bucking the system, and none of that is true. That's just all distractions to keep each of us from being who we are. If you look at the bigger picture, there's a lot more at stake here than just a thing that's been around for 18 months and may continue to be around in some form for however long, and maybe something that we just need to deal with and learn that we have everything inside of us to not only take charge of our health and well-being, but to take charge of who we are, how we exist in the world, and to have a peaceful, connected world, a new universe. And I think that's coming. I think we're going to see a lot of changes, And that's good. There's nothing wrong with change. And right now, we're caught in that turbulence of, do I want to change? Do I not want to change? What's up ahead? I don't know. But again, walk that path. Perception is of abundance. I have everything that I need inside of me. Okay? I have the God, the universe, the power, the higher power, whatever you want to call it, within me. And I can call upon that anytime. And it's only then that when we have self-confidence, when we can change our perception, and we can make our thoughts positive, and we can live from our hearts with gratitude, with compassion, with concern for other people, with the knowing that we're not, quote unquote, all out to get each other, and that the world isn't this horrible place that we can't go out of the house, that we can't do anything. We may have to use common sense, but we have to use common sense all the time. So it's not just with this thing and with the way the world has been for 18 months. It's been since you've been born, and you probably just never realized that you really had to use common sense, and you really had to use some sort of hygiene. You just never thought about it. So I'd like to leave you with this. Self-confidence and a perception, positive thinking, seeing the world and seeing ourselves and each other as abundant, as courageous, as self-confident, as helping each other. Then we will all not only get through this, but we will have the intuition that we can discern what is coming up. How can we look at that bigger picture? How can we see the things that are going on? Allison, thank you for watching. It's nice to see and hear from you again. So, when we use our intuition is that spirit, that heartfelt, authentic self, the power within us, the higher power within us, the God, the universe, whatever you call it, whatever your beliefs. But this is the only thing that's going to get us through whatever ails us and whatever fears us. And it's the only thing that's going to propel us into the next phase of our lives and of living a life where we're free, where we're abundant, where we know that we have everything within us, where we could take charge of our health and our well-being and not have to depend on anything from the outside. There's never been and there never will be a magic bullet, a magic potion, a magic pill, a magic shot, a magic anything. It's up to each of us to do the work ourselves, to depend on ourselves, to trust in ourselves, and to know that we're doing the very best we can, and that even though we're responsible for our own lives, and sometimes now we're being told a little bit differently that we're responsible for everybody. No, we're responsible to be decent human beings to everybody, but we're not responsible for everybody's life. Everybody has their own path. Everybody has their own journey, and they need to take that. It doesn't mean that we can't help them, but what it does mean is we can't live their life for them. That we have to live and concentrate on our own lives. Everything starts with the self. Self-care, self-empowerment, self-confidence, self-reliance. Everything has to do with the self. It's not being selfish. It's being mindful of the self. And when I talk about the self and what the self means is that spirit, that compassion, that living from our heart, that gratitude, everything that's good, that is within us, that we possess. Look at children when they're outside playing or when they're with each other. The innocence of it all, the true authentic self, the true spirit that they have. That's what we as adults need to go back to. We need to go back to how we were as children, when we were innocent, when we believed, and when we knew, I shouldn't say believe, but when we knew that everything was abundant, everything was good, that we were free, that we were playful, that we were in charge of ourselves, and yet we communed with everyone around us. I'll leave you with that and with Namaste, which is I honor the light in you, which is the same light in me. I'm Teresa Palmer. I'm a nurse practitioner, holistic nurse practitioner, whose specialty has been for over 20 years, self-empowerment of individuals to partner in their health care and holistic cardiology, because the heart is more than a pump, and a lot of times when there's heart problems, it has to do with other aspects, not only the physical, but the emotional and spiritual, that affects our heart, that affects our ability to live from our heart. I did write a book called Empowered for Wellbeing. It's on Amazon and it's on balboapress.com. It is in the process of being revised. I'm putting more of my energy into it. When I initially did the book in September of 2020, it was to get it out there quickly because I saw so many people in fear, in disbelief, in uncertainty, and I wanted to help people. I wanted to contribute. And now I'm going to contribute more by revising the book, by going into more detail with things, and by doing a little bit more of a spin on our intuition and how that really does play in our lives and how that really is our spirit. I'm also uploading my videos to YouTube, and right now my YouTube channel is Create Your Space of Wellbeing. My Facebook is Wellbeing by Teresa. Someday, somehow, when I get really technically savvy, and I'm in the process of working on all those things, I'll get everything under one umbrella so that people don't have trouble finding me on any of the social media. So thank you for joining me. Thank you for being you. Thank you for sharing your gifts with the world, because the world needs each and every one of us and needs us to be our authentic individual self. One last thought. My Aunt Sue, who was a very important part of my life. Many of you know that I grew up in a mentally ill household. I had a mother that was very, very mentally ill. Hospitalized several times throughout my life for major depression, for some different mental illnesses that really impacted her quality of life, and as a child impacted mine. So my Aunt Sue and my Aunt Anna were there to help me become who I was. And I remember a time that I was so distraught because I was lean and lanky, and I kind of had this straight hair that just kind of hung, and I guess underneath it all there was physically attractive, but I didn't know how to bring it out. And when I was in the band, I was actually the best flutist, but I was pushed in the back because I was told by my band leader, my orchestra leader, that nobody wanted to really look at me because I was too common and that I wouldn't spark interest in people coming to the concerts and whatnot. And this was high school, figure that out. So when I went crying to my Aunt Sue and I wanted to quit, Aunt Sue told me that I was the only person in the world that could be me, and I had to capitalize on my inner strengths, and it wasn't always how you looked on the outside, the clothes that you could afford, the makeup, anything like that, that it was always on the inside of who I was, and that I had to really embrace that. And forever I thanked my Aunt Sue for that. And I think if she's long passed over to the other side, but still with me as one of my spiritual guides and helps me along. But I think if she were still alive, she'd probably be, oh my goodness, she'd be well over 100 years old. So again, thank you for joining me today. It's a little longer than I thought it would be, but I do like to talk, and I feel that I am giving important information. So everyone, enjoy the rest of your day, enjoy the rest of your week, your weekend, wherever you are in the world, and peace, namaste, and I love each and every one of you, and we're here for each other. Thank you.